It Has No Name is one of the 6 books that has been shortlisted for the Best Young Adult Writing category of the Atta Galatta Bangalore Literature Festival Book Prize. Thank you, Payal, for agreeing to this conversation. And thank you so much, Vidya, for being in conversation with Payal. Over to the two of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Subodh, for asking me to be in conversation with Payal. And congratulations, Payal, for being on this lovely shortlist. It's a favorite book. You know it all. It's one of my favorite books, and you know it already. And I couldn't be more delighted that it is on the Atta Galatta Bangalore Literature Festival shortlist in the young adult category.
Thanks, Vidya, and thanks, Subodh. Always great to be here, Vidya, chatting with you about books.
Yes, Payal, I know I had a chance to read the book when it was still being written. So that makes me, I think that gives me like a nice insider's view of, what's happening. But, I wanted to start off by asking you, Payal, growing up, I'm not sure I, really read books with queer characters in them. It makes me so relieved to know that that situation has changed now, and that young people today have books with queer characters in them, thanks to writers like you. You have been writing for over 20 years now. You tell me, has it become easier as a writer? Has it become easier to write of a protagonist like Sami? I mean, to, let's say, literally bring her out of the closet? Or them out of the closet, actually?
Yes, I think it has. Since the time that my first book was published, that was 2006. So, yeah, 15 years ago. I mean, the world has changed. Mm-hmm. So there is it's got easier in many ways because conversations have moved on. There is terminology. The 377, the reading down of Section 377 also helped, I think, possibly making publishers more, open to publishing books with queer themes. But I also have to say that it has become easier, not just for books, it's generally become easier to speak about a whole lot of issues related to identity and so on. And it's, well, even though it's sure, it's become easier for these books to get published. I mean, you'll know better than me that we have books on so many themes. So-called, I mean, it's a different question that I don't kind of like to talk about books having a lesson or a theme or something like that. But the thing is that the variety of books that we are getting now is just so vast. So that way, I think that the possibilities have really opened for different kinds of books, for even experimenting with different kinds of subjects and identities and themes and issues, whatever you'd like to call them.
Mm-hmm. But in a sense, a lot of your writing, Payal, and I've been reading your writing for the last 15 years, actually. You have characters, be Leila from Hit for a Six, or the unnamed protagonist of Helping Hand, Komal in Slightly Burnt, and now Sami in It Has No Name. They're usually misfits. Right? I mean, of course, I'm going to put misfits in quotes, unquotes, misfits. But tell me, why do you choose to write about characters like that?
I'm glad you mentioned that you're putting them in quotes because this I'm so deeply uncomfortable with this concept of fitting or not fitting, because I can't say exactly how much things have changed since our generation were children, but there was so much pressure to be normal. It was almost, I think it's kind of weaponized, that you have to be that. There's this there are these various checklists that you have to take, and if you are, then you are falling in this category of normal, and that means you're a good kid and you're a good girl or a good boy, and you're supposed to be doing what you should be doing. And as a result, we grow up with this idea of we are so focused on what we should be that we forget about what we want or need to be. And it's how, like, kids when they are very young, they ask why all the time. I mean, why is the sky blue? Because it's so big. But why? Okay, fine, blue light scatters the most, but why? And what is scattering? And by the time we are 7, 8, 9 years old, we stop asking, because by that time we know that there is no point asking. It's this thing about, this is the way certain things are, and I have to be this way too. It's so internalized that we forget that there is always a question, and there's always a different way. And funnily enough, I get asked this question quite a bit, but I was just thinking about it today, and I was wondering that who among us, when we were children or when we were teenagers, has not felt like we were the only person in the world, or this is, no one understands me. We have all been misfits at some time or the other. My parents don't understand me.
Absolutely.
My friends don't understand me. So what is this idea of what is normal and what is not, and what is fitting in and what is not fitting in is a really messed up concept. And I think that this is a big mistake that we all make, not as authors and publishers and so on, but also as human beings, as parents, that we are so caught up in what things should be that we forget that there are things that kids need to be or want to be, or things that kids are just trying out because experimenting is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what would that what would childhood or teenage be if you didn't try out different things, if you didn't think that the world started and ended with the end of your own nose, basically, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, like you just said, I mean, what is this concept of boxing people? I mean, we tend to do it. We tend to categorize everything, right? From the books we read, we're putting them into lists. The people we meet, we're putting them into categories. So that actually ends up making you ask even a question saying that, why do you write about misfits? I mean, so what are they really? In fact, that's the lovely thing about It Has No Name, Payal. Often books of queer literature will tend to portray their characters as marginalized. Now, the lovely thing about Sami, Sami in your book is the fact that you focus. They are the protagonist of your book, and they happen to be queer. That's about it, really, right? How did you shift the focus away from what the world perceives them to be, to Sami's own inner landscape? I mean, was that easy to do in your writing? And maybe while you're responding, you can tell our viewers a little bit about the book even, right?
Okay, so that's a surprisingly difficult question. What I've actually been, this is, the whole idea of representation and diversity is something that I've been in a lot of conversations with from various sides of the argument, in terms of how you read or view diversity, as well as how you represent it. And I think that this I mean, speaking in terms of Indian children's literature, I think this first wave of diversity that we are seeing it's a lot. I mean, there is a lot of exploration going on, and of course, it's a process, and it has to happen. And so, therefore, difference is kind of stories of marginalized kids, they kind of end up being about these marginalizations. They are often about these tragedies or inspiration or overcoming. And I have done my share of that. And at some point, I started thinking about, okay, but what if, why can't the queer kid go on an adventure, or why can't the blind kid be kidnapped by aliens, or what happens if, I don't know,
kidnapped, whatever.
Exactly.
Right?
So,
what I actually meant to say was that, for me as the reader of It Has No Name, it was all about Sammy. It was all about their life. It was all about growing up, gay in India, and not so much about the cause itself. You know what I mean? That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, so I was getting to that, and I think that what I realized for myself is that if I am to get the reader to walk in the shoes of Sami, then we have to get to a point. We have to get her perspective. Like, it's how she sees the world is how the book needs to be, how the story needs to be told. So Sami, she's not having an identity crisis. She knows very well what she is. She's very sure of her gender. She's very sure of how she chooses to represent that gender, and she's very sure that she's gay. So these are not things that she struggles with. So as a result of that, it's not about her inner, sure, it is also a lot about her inner world, but it's a lot of the fitting in stuff that every teen kind of goes through. But the fact that she is not gender conforming, people get confused when they look at her, and the fact that she's gay gives her it gives us some different perspectives. It puts her in some different kinds of situations. Sometimes those situations are harmful, dangerous, and all that. So what was very important was to make sure that the story is being told from Sami's perspective to somebody, and being told to somebody who may also be reading it from those perspectives, and not to pander to normality. The very narrow confines of normality, because for Sami this is normal. Does that answer the question, or did I just go on a tangent again?
No. There are, like you said, at the beginning of the conversation, it has become easier to write about these so-called, hush hush, topics at the moment. I mean, in India. But often when you read those books, right, you get the feeling that is it the issue that is the focus, or is it the story of the protagonists that are being told? And what is lovely about It Has No Name and Sami is that this is Sami's story. I mean, first and foremost. And I think you've responded to that query perfectly when you said that Sami is so sure who they are, right? There's no confusion in their head about who they are. So that's
and it's what you said was like really right. That this is Sami's story, and it's only Sami's story. It is not representative of any other gay teenager in India, or however they may choose to show what gender they belong to or not. It's just her story.
And yet, Payal, it brings me to that question that, that I asked even at the beginning, is that, as children and teenagers, we want to see ourselves and our problems and our worldviews in the books we read, right? So this is Sami's story, but it's also a story for every, for every child who's growing up gay in India, right? I mean, why do you think that's important?
It's important because I feel that, and I hope I'm wrong about this, but I feel like there is no acknowledgement that we have children who are queer, gay, whatever, asexual, agender, whatever it is, and they are there, they are struggling, they are hiding, they are scared, they are facing violence. They don't know why they don't understand why what should be right and what feels right for their friends doesn't feel right for them.
Yes.
There are and there are various combinations of these, and there are various other struggles that maybe we are not even aware of. Mm-hmm. And these kids are all there, and they I just want to, I mean, it would be very self-aggrandizing to say that I want to say that I see you. It's not that, but I mean, as one of those kids at one time, I think that I know what it feels like to always feel that you are wrong, or there's something, it's not quite there about you. And so I think it's important for those kids to see themselves in fiction. It's also important for those who conform to see that there are other kids who also have their lives and also have their struggles.
Right. Yeah. So well said that, you need for both sides to be able to see it, right? For children, to see themselves in books, and for children who conform to see that it's quite okay not to conform, right? That doesn't make you a misfit, quote unquote, a misfit, really. Yeah. You one wonderful trait that that feature in your book, all of them, I mean, whether they are picture books or whether they are like adventure stories or books for middle grade readers, for young adults, you get the voices of your protagonists absolutely right. Payal, I mean, the conversations, the dialogues between the children or teenagers. How do you manage to get that voice so right, and how do you manage to bring that empathy that we don't often see in young adult books in India?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer the second thing first, the empathy part. I don't know, sad and surprised or whatever, but I remember what a struggle childhood and adolescence was. And I don't understand how people can forget it. And the memories and the feelings, they are still very much, they're still very much present for me. So I think that's where the empathy comes from. And thank you for saying that it's that there is empathy, because it's not something that I can judge, but I'm really glad that it comes through. As for the voice, again, I'm really flattered that you think I get the voice right. I'm just kind of wondering if, and I wonder this quite a lot, that I think maybe my mental age is probably stuck at that 15 or so level. So I maybe even speak like that in real life. I don't know. So yeah, it's basically just recalling what it felt like to be a teenager, and just going from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just lovely. The conversations, they just sparkle. I mean, I'm far from that age myself, but like you say, when you read it, you're, you remember, at least I remember a time long past, and think of how you sounded, and really those conversations, I think they will resonate so well with teenagers.
I fear sometimes that maybe it just resonates with us. And we just think that that's what teenagers sound like today, but maybe they don't.
I hope you're not looking at the sales figures of your books and saying it, but look, the Atta Galatta Bangalore Literature Festival juries picked that one. So Payal, it's resonating with more than more than just the two of us in this conversation, really. I also wanted to ask you, Payal, I mean, a character like Sami, she's, they kind of quickly forced out of their comfort zone. I mean, and I've seen this in, with Komal in, Slightly Burnt, and, I can just see that they are pushed out. You, the writer, pushes them out of their comfort zones quite quickly. I mean, is there a reason, why you never kind of protect them from the challenges of growing up? I mean, your own characters?
Yes, that's interesting to think about. I mean, in these stories, I suppose it's what really makes their lives interesting enough to to be in a book.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I actually haven't ever thought that I would need to protect my protagonists, from the challenges of growing up, because growing up is hard. I mean, think of
Absolutely.
with everything that's going around. I mean, it's hard enough for us these days to get from one thing to the other. I can't even imagine what kids must be going through and things that they are seeing and hearing, and probably don't even know where to go with those questions and thoughts and feelings. So I think that real life, which maybe the teen readers are negotiating, are much harder than what I am throwing my protagonists into.
That's yes. I mean, I mean, in fact, I wanted to say the characters in your book and your readers, you just force them out of their comfort zones very, very quickly. And I think that's just a wonderful thing to do. And there was also, one question, Payal, that I wanted to, and I can see that there are one or two questions from the audience. So I'll ask those questions as well. When you started, you were talking about look at books as, I mean, equate diverse books with multicultural ones. You know what I mean? Typically, that means characters featuring festivals and cultural contexts that are different from your own. But I think there's a big difference between including characters in books and representing them, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I would see it as the difference between visibility and representation. Visibility is just showing people, and visibility can sometimes even stop at tokenism, like you have a token girl or a token disabled character. Representation is when you are telling stories about these particular kinds of whatever identities. But I also feel that one has to be very careful in this as a writer and as someone who someone who's living in these times with the kind of hate speech that we are seeing. Right. That one also needs to be very careful of one's privilege. And one conversation that we have yet to have in this space is who's telling the story and whose story is being told.
Yes.
Like it's, for instance, in my book Slightly Burnt, I didn't actually tell the story of a queer protagonist. I told the story of a straight friend.
Absolutely.
So, and in the same way, we must remember that, or at least I try to, that I am, as an upper caste Hindu, I have a lot of privilege in this today in India, and that I should not be appropriating someone else's story, and to not be able to do that is not easy. And right now, the people who are writing the books, especially in English language, and this includes me, we are the ones who are doing all the writing. The actual voices of marginalized people are few and far between. Mm-hmm. So that is when talking about diversity and inclusion, that is something that's a very, very important and a very and a conversation that we are not having. And I think that this needs to be kept in mind when talking about multicultural books.
Absolutely, absolutely, Payal. Yes, I couldn't agree more about the fact that we need to have those conversations on who's telling whose story, really, right? I'm going to, I can see that there are two questions, so I'm going to ask, those to you. They are from Arun, and he says, to what extent does being labeled a misfit bring about awareness in this media age? Again, he has misfit in quotes, unquote.
I'm kind of not sure how to understand this. I mean, what
I mean, I guess he means that, being labeled a misfit, is that like become very fashionable, thanks to what the media does these days? I mean, that's probably, I think, the drift of Arun's question.
This is, okay. Then sorry, Arun, for not understanding it, because this is actually a very important question. It's, I think one again needs to be very careful here, that and I've heard a lot of people say that it's fashionable these days to be gay, or it's fashionable to say that, oh, I have a different pronoun or something like that. But we must also understand that what is actually happening is that these words, these terms, these understandings are becoming more and more popular. They are becoming more and more in the mainstream. So I mean, just think 10 years ago when we were kids, there were so many people who pretended to be something else, and now you don't really need to. So if there is a discomfort that has become fashionable, so to speak, that discomfort, I think, also comes from a privileged kind of perspective, that you are uncomfortable with people who are claiming different identities. I think it's being a misfit that way. I think it's a great thing, because you're just kind of showing how much diversity there is in the world.
There's also one question, Payal, on children's literature now, and whether there's the representation on various issues is more it's more like tokenism, or is it is it a move in the right direction? I think we have a couple of minutes to respond to that one, before we hand over to the next panel.
So this is this or that question, and I'm going to be annoying, and I'm going to say yes. Because these are both true. There is, I think, to a large extent, there is tokenism, and I also do think it's a move in the right direction, because it's not like flipping a switch and figuring out the right way to do anything. It's things that we are learning, and I think it's a lot better, and it's a lot more diverse than it used to be. But is it enough? No, nowhere near enough. But we'll get there. It's not going to happen overnight, I hope, if we learn from what we haven't done right.
Absolutely, Payal. Subodh, I'm not sure, do we have time? I mean, there seems to be one more question, so I just wanted to check with you if we have time.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so again, to what extent do reviews help you in your writing, Payal?
They help in the sense that they give you a sense of how readers are reading your book, that in the sense that how they have understood something, or how they have interpreted something. I don't feel like reviews are intended for the author. The reviews are intended for other readers. So as an author, I don't think that reviews are that important. And I mean, they are important. What I mean to say is that book reviewing has kind of changed so much in this, the social media kind of age. And in writers groups, I see people talking about, oh, someone gave me a 2-star review, someone gave me a 1-star review. And it all seems to be kind of connected with the fact that good review means good book sales. But actually, I don't think that's how book reviews work. Book reviews are readers talking about books and how they interpreted it. I think it's constructive for writers to actually look at the bad reviews to see what a reader expected and did not get from the book, and then think about whether that's something you want to address or not. But sure, it feels great when someone says, oh, what a fantastic book it was, and 5-star and all that. But do they actually help in any way in the writing? No, I'm not sure. I think the harsher reviews are a greater learning experience.
Yeah, and I like that point about the star reviews, 1 star, 2-star, 5-star, entirely just driven by social media. Thank you so much, Payal. I think we're just completely out of time. And I know you say that there's a lot more that needs to be done, to make children's literature more inclusive. But opening up that brave new world in children's writing in India. I think you've helped us take those tiny steps, and I hope that will become one giant leap, definitely in our lifetimes at least.
Thank you, Vidya.
And I totally agree. And thank you, Payal and Vidya, for that wonderful conversation.